What's up, guys? Today in this video we're going to show you the best way to pull a dent. Of course, we're going to give you some updates on the F100. But this idea came from being at an auction, and we were looking around at all these beautiful cars and looking at the back of one of the cars, like on the deck lid. You could see where like the whole car was perfect, and then there's this big cracked mark, and you can kind of like look around it. Of course, we didn't touch it or anything. You could see how deep they had just absolutely caked the body filler on there. And of course that led to the failure. So today we're going to show you other ways that you can remove dents instead of just absolutely piling a bunch of body filler in there. All right, so what we're going to be working with in this video is going to be the front fenders of my 63 F100. And if you look down here, I don't know if you can see it so well on the camera. I'm going to have to get like a straight edge so you can see it. But there's two really big dents right here, which normally people would just cake a bunch of body filler over it. We're going to show you the best way to fix this. All right, so I want to give you guys a little bit more of a visual reference. So what we're talking about is this dent right here and this dent right here. And if I lay this over top of it, you can see the space right there and then right there. So now it becomes a little bit more clear versus out here, you have nice contact with the sanding block, but you have a massive space right there. So that's what we're going to be filling, and it goes pretty far back here too. So, but this is what we're going to be pulling out, and this is going to save you so much time, so much product. It's just going to save you a lot of things. Before we get started, I want to talk about the absolute worst thing that you could do in this scenario. You have these two big dents, and a lot of people just want to go through and fill them in like I was talking about earlier with a bunch of Bondo. Well, what that's going to do, one, is it's going to waste a bunch of Bondo, which you don't want that. Two is if you were to get any kind of contact on this panel, and like even shutting a door, sometimes you have contact if your body lines aren't perfect. Your door can actually contact the fender, and if this gets a hard enough impact, it will crack all the way around your Bondo repair. So that's why I'm saying you want to keep it as thin as possible at all times. There's no reason to go through here and put a bunch of stuff on there. So to make a tool for this, it's called a stud welder. Basically, it just welds little studs. I'll demonstrate it here in a minute, and then you just slide a hammer to pull those. And I'll demonstrate how all that works here in a minute. But this cost me like $99, okay? So for good quality body filler, you're talking like 2 containers for the price of just getting this. This is gonna save you so much body filler that it's worth the investment. So the biggest thing you need to do this is get this all the way down to bare metal. That way you can go in there and actually be able to weld those studs on. There's a million ways to get it down to bare metal. I just like using my right angle grinder with the hook and loop sanding attachment. So now that we've got that bare metal exposed, we're going to go in there and weld on our studs. Alright, so when I purchased this kit, it came with 2 different size studs that you can weld on. And I like using the thinner ones. I feel like for the power of the tool, it actually gets good penetration whenever you go to weld them on there. So, super simple. Basically, I go to the deepest part of this dent, and that's where I'll put my first stud at. So, all you do is stick your stud in the end of the stud welder, press till you get contact, hold it for a second, and let off of there. We're gonna do some more on the other dents. I think we have like 3 big dents here that we're gonna try to fill. Okay, all right, so we've got our slide hammer here. And again, this kit I'll link to down in the description below. It's not an affiliate link or anything. It's just a link to the one that I purchased from Harbor Freight. Insert this end over the stud. Then you've got a little dial thing down here that's gonna catch. So basically you're gonna turn that little dial, pull up, and as you can see, it's caught on the stud. So Really, you want to try to brace this fender down to keep it from rocking, because I've got some unstable surface here. Ideally, it'd probably be best if it was still mounted in the truck, but I don't have that luxury. All right, so we have a good bite there. We can feel it. I'm bracing the fender down with my elbow for my situation, and then you're just going to slide the hammer back and strike the back of the handle here. All right, guys, so I got all three of those pulled, and there's a little bit of like a crease now instead of this big dent. So basically this center section here has been pulled up. You don't want to go too crazy because then it'll come too high and then you have a high spot, and those are just as hard as the really low spots to kind of blend in. So this feels pretty good too. So basically I like to just kind of bend these back and forth and they just snap off. So just like that. And then if you need to do more pulling, now's your chance to do that. But honestly, I think I'm pretty happy with where this is at. There's just some minor little imperfections here. That's what body filler is for. You don't want to go through here and be filling in huge dents, because then whenever you go through here and you get any kind of impact, it's going to leave a giant mark wherever all your body filler is if it's built up too thick. So we're going to go ahead and try to grind these down, fill all this in with some body filler, and you'll see immediately how much less body filler you have to use because you've done most of the work just by pulling these studs out. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and grind these down. I've just got a flat disc on my angle grinder. That's the way I like to grind these down. You don't wanna get too much heat in here. Sometimes the dents can actually pop back in, but we just wanna kinda grind this one down a little bit, that one, just kind of alternate back and forth. That way you don't get so much heat in there that it's actually warping the panel. So once they're grinded down, you'll also be able to kind of feel where the dents are and how deep they are. I actually think that I want to go over and probably hit this one a little outside the area that I just did. Kind of pull it up and it'll help blend that in. So I'm going to do one more here, just outside the last stud that we welded on. So we're going to hit this area again. Again, we're trying to save product here and prevent ourselves from having a failure in our Bondo work. So we need to lift this up just a little more. All right, so on this little peel and stick board that I have, which these are very useful. If you guys haven't gotten these, you guys should definitely get these. Makes cleanup way easier. You don't have to worry about scraping all the old stuff off. You literally just peel the top layer and then throw it in the trash can and you're good to go. So I love these. You can check out the description to a link for them on Amazon. So we're just using a very small amount of Bondo here. This may even be too much for this area, but there's other little dents that I can fill. Even coverage of Bondo here, maybe two, just to like fill in some of the imperfections or the little pinholes, but we're just going for as little Bondo as possible. And you can see, and that's even widespread, that's going to blend in really nicely, and we'll go through there and block sand that and most of that will come off. But you can see, compared to what I started with, how much Bondo is still on the paper here. So we're gonna go ahead and use this on the other parts of the panel that I need to fill in, and then I'll get back on the camera. All right guys, so our body filler is dry and we're gonna go ahead and start block sanding on it. We've got a curved surface here, so basically it's going to take some time to kind of block sand this out right. but we will need to put a second coat on. That's perfectly normal. That doesn't mean we're loading body filler in there. It's so thin right now, and some places that you can still see through it into the metal. So still very thin. It's perfectly fine. It's way better than that deep dent that we first started with. So we're gonna go ahead and start block sanding on it. If you guys need help on block sanding body filler and how to apply body filler, make sure you check out the other video that I did just last week. I had some pretty good feedback from that video, so make sure you check it out. I'll link to it up in the corner. Let's get started. More than likely, again, it's going to take a second coat. Most repairs will. If you're not doing it in 2 coats, more than likely you're doing way too much body filler. So we're going to go ahead and work this down. We're going to do a hyperlapse, that way I don't bore you with block sanding. Here's a closer look at the repair. You can see the little high spot in the metal. Again, if you run your hand over it though, completely smooth. You can't feel anything. So then you can see how thin the edges are. So everything is nice and smooth. So now rather than just filling that hole with Bondo and then having a failure in the Bondo, now we have a very thin layer, and it's much less likely that this repair is going to fail. I would say that there's no chance that this will fail. You can see how thin it is around here. This is a glazing putty on top of it. All right, so there are definitely some tools that I would say are definitely worth the investment. That's one of them, because it's so cheap to get one of those, especially when you can go to Harbor Freight and get it for $99. There are some on Amazon that I've seen used that are pretty good, and I will link those down in the description as well. But the money that you're gonna be saving by not buying and using so much body filler is going to make it worth it just in itself. All right, guys, really, I'm just trying to save you the headache. I'm just trying to save you some time, some money. Definitely the headache, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is you go through and you get your car all done, you spend so much time and money on it, and then all of a sudden you have a failure. And at that point, it's already too late, because you've probably had the car all assembled. At that point, the only thing that you can really do is sand the whole thing down and then correct it the right way, or if you want to take the shortcut and do it the way they did it and have another failure, especially on something like a deck lid, because if you go and shut your trunk lid, all the constant impact of shutting your deck lid is going to eventually cause some kind of failure. So you want to make sure that doors and things like that, you're not just absolutely piling a bunch of body filler on. Okay, so really quick, and I probably will make another announcement outside of just this video, but now that the whole thing is all said and done, I am now 100% doing this full-time. So I have quit my full-time job and I am doing this full-time. And that's why I have been knocking out so much progress on this truck, because the whole game plan for now is just to kind of knock these projects out one by one, sell them, make a little profit, and then keep going. And this is the way that I want to build the channel at this point. Really, the big thing is I just want a bunch of projects that I can build and have fun while I'm doing it. Now more than ever, if you guys would just hit the subscribe button, I would really, really appreciate it. I am kind of going in the deep end here, and I am just trusting that this process of building the YouTube channel will be a success. Another thing, I have a Facebook page that I've been doing where I kind of can answer a lot more questions, just because it's easier to communicate on there. So I'll link to that down below as well. You can go check out the Facebook page and ask me any questions you have, or leave them in the comments here and I'll address them there. All right, other than that, I will see you guys in the next video.